the remarkable events in Ekaterinburg, out there on the very edge of Siberia, was just wow. That was just so awesome, and to be a part of that, and to know that we gave some kind of witness to Russian and Russian Orthodox people as Catholics, to know that we did that and to experience what we experienced. I think we received far more than we gave.
What just happened this summer was an extraordinary journey where, with 12 others from the United States, we traveled to Moscow and to Ekaterinburg and then to Vatican City, and we had extraordinary encounters. We were received with great affection in Russia, and we saw extraordinary things. We visited Ekaterinburg, a city just beyond the Ural Mountains in the beginning of Asia, which was the site of a tragic event 100 years ago, the execution of Tsar Nicholas II, his wife Alexandra, and their 5 children, 4 daughters and a son, Alexei, who was only 13 years old. That execution occurred on the night of July 17th, 1918. On July 17th, 2018, we were there on the spot where a church has been built and where about 100,000 Russians gathered to pray for 2.5 hours in a special divine liturgy. Then began an approximately 15-mile procession, which took them from the center of Ekaterinburg outside the city to a little wooded area where the bodies of the executed Romanovs had been carried on a cart and thrown into a shallow grave on the morning of July 17th, 1918. This procession was astonishing. People were singing hymns. They were walking, old people, some people even in wheelchairs, some people limping, but they all went for 3 or 4 or even 5 hours of walking to make that pilgrimage following the path of the bodies of the Romanovs. I've just been speaking with one of my fellow pilgrims about this sense of orphanhood that spiritually affected the entire Russian nation. It wasn't so much a political event to execute the Tsar, to strip the Tsar and his wife and their children of their jewelry, of their clothing, of their identity, and to dump them here. But this loss of their identity was really the identity as parents, spiritually to their nation. And that's a wound that psychologically and spiritually has affected the country ever since.
Very holy site of the pilgrimage here to where the bodies and the bones were laid. It has been a touching to our spirit just to see the people and the passion that walked this whole 9-10 miles to honor the loss of the giving of the blood. So it's just a really moving experience to see the passion that people have in their hearts.
We then, on the next day, went out to a little village about 100 miles outside of Ekaterinburg called Alapayevsk. And in that town, the sister of Alexandra, whose name was Elizabeth, and in the Russian Orthodox Church she is called Saint Elizabeth, was executed on the 18th of July, 1918. And we had the privilege on the 18th of July, 2018, 100 years later, of going to the place where she was thrown down a mine shaft and executed because she was a Romanov. Our journey was a source of considerable surprise and some appreciation from the Russian Orthodox, who saw us there, met with us, and thanked us for being there. We had nothing whatsoever of a political nature to say or to represent. What we went there for was to stand with other people in memory of a tragedy for a family, and particularly for the children. And to say that we share the sorrow of many in Russia at the loss of the life of that family in a tragic way at about 2 a.m. in the morning when they were all shot to death. So what was the point of this trip? The point of this trip was to stand together, not to make any sort of political statement about monarchy or of revanchism or a restoration of the Romanovs, but simply to say, when people, including children, get caught up in the great affairs of this world, civil wars, revolutions, and when they suffer and when they are shot and killed, there is a sorrow which we can share, and by sharing it, we can bring ourselves closer together, and we can work together by being closer together on the great problems that face us today. Thank you.